Since its inception in 2005, the Vietnam Provincial Competitiveness Index, or PCI, has been a critical tool for measuring and assessing the standards of economic governance in Vietnam's provinces from the perspective of the private sector business. Over the past 14 years, the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or VCCI, has collaborated closely with the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, to produce an annual PCI report. This year also marks the second year that Quảng Ninh tops the competitive ranking, replacing Da Nang after securing the first position for 4 consecutive years from 2013 to 2016. But first, let's review the PCI report and this year's result in the following clip.
The PCI 2018 report was launched by the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or VCCI, and the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. Quảng Ninh Province gained the highest score of 70.36 on a 100-point scale. It is followed by the Southern Province of Đồng Tháp with 70.19 points and the Mekong Delta Province of Long An with 68.09 points. Cities and provinces in the top 10 competitive localities include Da Nang, Bình Dương, Quảng Nam, Vĩnh Long, Hanoi, and Ho Chi Minh City. The PCI 2018 is the 14th edition of the report. It was based on rigorous surveys of the perceptions of more than 12,000 firms operating in Vietnam. Those include nearly 11,000 private companies and more than 1,500 foreign invested enterprises. According to the PCI survey, 2018 saw more positive improvements in business environment than the previous year, with informal judges reducing, a more equitable business climate for private firms, and better administrative reforms.
We have here in our studio today 2 guests, Mr. Michael Greene, a Mission Director for USAID Vietnam, and also Ms. Vũ Thị Kim Chi, a Deputy Director of the Quảng Ninh Province Investment Promotion Agency. Together, they will share more about this year's report, the province's performance, and how the PCI report has gained its critical role. Well, thank you to both of our guests.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Great. Now, over the past 14 years, PCI has become an indicator for provincial authorities to improve their performance. Mr. Greene, can you please tell us more about PCI and its goal?
Since we first launched PCI along with our good friend and collaborator VCCI 14 years ago, the goal has always been to raise the voice of the private sector in order to work with provincial government, in order to improve the business environment, increase investment, and ultimately create economic growth and new jobs. Provincial governments have become very focused on the PCI in terms of its importance in raising their competitiveness, and the result has been steadily increasing competitiveness over the last 14 years. We've seen very large increases in investment from both domestic investment and foreign investment over the last 14 years. And all of those investors use the PCI to determine the best provinces where they should invest, where the business environment is the most positive. And so we think that the goals that we set out to achieve with VCCI 14 years ago have really been achieved.
What are the highlights result of this year's PCI, Mr. Greene?
We were very pleased with the results of this year's PCI report. I think the headline result is that the median PCI score, the core PCI index, reached an all-time high this year. And what that indicates is that countrywide, generally the business environment has improved and reached an all-time high. I guess this is no surprise, but the important thing about the PCI is that it provides data to really confirm what investors sense, that there's been an improvement overall in the last 14 years. I think the second most important result is that the gap between the top performers and the lowest ranked performers has continued to narrow, and this year has reached a new narrowing. And what that tells you is that while the top performers, like Quảng Ninh Province, continue to improve, The lowest ranking performers also are improving.
And what about you, Ms. Chi? What are the highlights result of this year's PCI report in your opinion?
We are very happy to see the PCI report. It's the second time we can keep our leading position in the PCI and also keep the 6 consecutive years in the top 5 rank of PCI. Business community put more belief on our economic governance. And also the second point, I would like to look in the detail that we have a very high, strong improvements in land assessing. Before, the land assessing all the way in the lower rank, and now we can climb up the second rank. Also, decreasing formal charge has meant that it is very easy for business to work there.
That's a great result so far. Now, this year's report features a special chapter discussing how Vietnamese enterprises are performing in response to the considerable fluctuations in the international economy. So why is it so important, Mr. Greene?
That was a very important section because everyone has been talking about the potential for foreign invested enterprises to move their production to Vietnam. And the data in the PCI report show that that's actually happening. Foreign invested enterprises say that they're in the process of increasing their production here in Vietnam, and perhaps more importantly, increasing their higher value added production in order to access international value chains for export.
What about Ms. Chi? What, in your opinion, why is it important to include this chapter in this year's report?
I think it is very important. Enterprises, particularly local enterprises, they have limited information to understand how they can work well in integration. The chapter make more information for people, for the enterprises to know how they can do for the international contract. They can have more information in detail. It's a strong point and a weak point to integrate.
Now, since the index inception, what are the most remarkable changes in our province's competitiveness, Mr. Greene?
Well, as you know, the PCI index is composed of 10 sub-indices that measure everything, basically everything that impacts on businesses and their cost of doing business and their time in doing business. Everything from the time it takes to clear customs procedures to special inspections, registering a business. The most profound impact has been across the board that all provinces have focused on those issues and have reduced. In basically all those sub-indices, everyone has improved, which means that the overall business environment has improved.
On the 30th of December 2018, Vân Đồn International Airport in Quảng Ninh Province commenced operations. The joint project by infrastructure company Sun Group and Quảng Ninh Province marked a new milestone for the province to become the only locality in Vietnam having both private airport and seaport.
Đối với chiến lược thì chúng tôi đã xác định là cái lợi nhuận nó không đến ngay, và chúng tôi cũng song hành cùng với cả cái chiến lược cũng như cái tầm nhìn của tỉnh, đó là khi chúng ta đã có hạ tầng phát triển ngoài đường bộ, ngoài cảng biển, đường hàng không, thì đó là một cái cơ hội để đưa rất là nhiều khách du lịch đến với tỉnh.
That investors believe comes from the province's simplified administrative procedures, especially advancements in implementing administrative procedures related to land clearance. Creating a business dialogue with enterprises and investors was an important factor that helped the province achieve this success.
Luôn luôn là việc đi đầu trong việc thai nghén và lan tỏa những cái mô hình cải cách có tính chất động lực. Và tôi nghĩ là Quảng Ninh đang có một cái đà rất tốt để có thể trở thành một cái địa phương tiếp tục dẫn đầu trong cái cải cách về thể chế ở cấp địa phương của nước ta.
Cụ thể chúng tôi cũng thay đổi cái quan điểm là từ cái việc hỗ trợ doanh nghiệp một cách bị động thì chúng tôi chuyển sang chủ động. Chủ động ở chỗ là tỉnh thường xuyên chủ động nghiên cứu, nắm bắt cái nhu cầu, những cái vướng mắc của người dân, của doanh nghiệp thông qua các cái chương trình như là cà phê buổi sáng, cà phê doanh nhân, vào các ngày lễ rồi là buổi sáng sớm ngày làm việc, rồi thông qua các cái gặp gỡ trực tiếp, hội thảo ở từng cái nhóm, từng lĩnh vực một cách cởi mở để cho doanh nghiệp có thể bày tỏ các nguyện vọng cũng như là những cái đề đạt, những cái mong muốn đối với chính quyền.
2018 was the second year in a row that Quảng Ninh province had won first place in the PCI rankings. The locality has emerged as a magnet for foreign investors in the recent time thanks to its developed infrastructures, favorable business climate, and administrative reforms.
Taking a look at the case study of Quảng Ninh province, over the past 14 years, the PCI report has become one of the indicators for provincial authorities to improve their support toward the business community. Ms. Chi, how has Quảng Ninh province utilized this tool in administrative reform?
We participated in the PCI measurements from the first year until now, and for 14 years we use this as a very useful tool and indicator for the people to define more clearly about economic governance of the province. And from that data from PCI, we carefully survey, and then we can allocate department and related district in administrative reform based on the 10 indicators from PCI. And also the second, we would like to use the PCI like useful tools to promote dialogue between the public and the private sector, like the cafe business. And finally, we would like to use PCI tool and then apply on the DDCI. We often say that like the daughter or the son from the PCI. It means that we measure the department in Quảng Ninh province to know their economic governance and to contribute very greatly to the PCI results, I think.
Now, can you tell us about Quảng Ning's participation in the ranking and how has its performance improved so far?
So for the Quảng Ninh province, we think the ranking now is great and we are very happy, but to improve more our score, because you know now the score in the year 2018 is a little bit lower than the 2017. It's a reason why we need to find out very clearly solutions for the year 2019. This month we will do our workshop to think very carefully and to put the target in the detail for each related department and the district in the province.
This is the second consecutive year that Quảng Ninh has won the top position. So what do the top provinces have in common, Mr. Greene?
I think Ms. Chi's presentation about what they're doing in Quảng Ninh is an excellent demonstration of what the best provinces do, and that is reaching out especially strongly to the private sector, to dialogue with the private sector about what are the specific issues that they're facing in the business environment. Quảng Ninh has led the way in adopting new and innovative models like the Biz Cafe, like the district and department level index, which measures performance at each level of the provincial government. And so it's those kind of innovative models that the leading provinces adopt, and ongoing outreach and dialogue with the private sector that I think are the factors that make those the leading provinces.
This enterprise annually exports 300,000 tons of rice to major markets around the world, such as the Philippines, China. However, having to find markets and build a safe supply chain on their own prevents further breakthroughs.
Với chính phủ thì nên tạo điều kiện công bằng cho doanh nghiệp nhà nước cũng như doanh nghiệp tư nhân. Tất cả các cái thị trường mà nhà nước muốn đã khai thông được bằng cái chính sách ngoại giao hoặc là song phương thì phải trao cơ hội công bằng cho chúng tôi.
Để chúng ta tạo bứt phá, tức là kinh tế vĩ mô phải ổn định để tạo niềm tin. Cái thứ hai đó là tạo môi trường cạnh tranh kinh doanh bình đẳng ở tất cả mọi cái đối tượng kinh doanh, trên tất cả chính sách, không có một chính sách ưu đãi riêng cho ai, tiếp tục cải cách đồng bộ cái nền hành chính công vụ.
The private sector is currently contributing more than 40% of the GDP, with about 700,000 enterprises and more than 5.2 million business households. However, to make the private economy a spearhead for development, many strategies are needed to enable the private economy to achieve breakthroughs.
One of the areas, I think, is the tax system, and that it be fair and equal. There's a lot of complaining right now that tax collection and auditing has become very, very difficult and time-consuming.
Tôi nghĩ rằng là đối với các cái cơ quan của nhà nước ở địa phương thì cái hỗ trợ về cơ chế chính sách là điều quan trọng số 1. Ở đây không có yếu tố về tài chính. Bởi vì nếu cơ chế chính sách mà thông thoáng, mà đảm bảo đạt được cái sự kịp thời, hiệu quả thì các hoạt động kinh tế nó sẽ gia tăng.
According to VCCI, in the past year, Vietnam has cut 50% of business conditions and administrative inspection procedures. However, the business community expects administrative reforms will increase this year in order to, step by step, improve Vietnam's business environment.
Điểm số các địa phương dẫn đầu đã không có sự bứt phá lớn, mới chỉ vượt qua ngưỡng 70 điểm trên 100 điểm. Điều này thì một mặt cho thấy là cái dư địa cải cách còn nhiều. Mặt khác cũng cho thấy là những cái nỗ lực cải cách của các địa phương đang đụng trần thể chế. Cho nên cần phải có những cái nỗ lực tiếp theo trong việc cải cách thể chế mạnh mẽ từ cấp trung ương, từ các bộ ngành để tiếp tục mở đường cho sự sáng tạo từ cấp địa phương và cơ sở. Và tôi nghĩ là vai trò các địa phương là vô cùng quan trọng, và đặc biệt là các địa phương phải là nôi của những ý tưởng cải cách.
34% of enterprises, when asked, said that it was difficult to apply for certificates of eligibility for businesses. Moreover, 30% of businesses have had to wait a long time to receive fire protection certificates.
What are your recommendations for the government, the local authority and enterprises to enhance their competitiveness under the context of globalization? Mr. Greene?
I think that's a very important question because Vietnam contributes to the global economy almost more than any other country in the world. Its percentage of GDP that's due to international trade is one of the highest in the world, and therefore it must continue to raise its competitiveness in order to continue to participate in those global value chains. The biggest issues that face Vietnamese SMEs in terms of participating in those value chains are that the delivery of products of a sufficient quality in a sufficient quantity to meet international value chain demands and on-time delivery all the time. Those are the big challenges. The ways they need to adjust to ensure that they're going to meet those challenges is investing in additional quality standards like ISO 9000 standards, investing in a more highly qualified workforce in order to produce higher quality goods for those value chains, continued investment in plant and equipment in order to produce goods on time at sufficient quantity. And so those are all the things the enterprises can do. The provincial government authorities, I think, need to continue to do what they've been doing, and that is improving economic governance to improve the business environment in which those enterprises can operate.
Okay, what about Ms. Chi? What are your recommendations for all these authorities and enterprises to enhance their competitiveness?
To improve our competitiveness, there are many factors. As I know from the micro-portal model, it combined by 4 main factors, like factor condition, demand condition, and also for related and supporting and rivalry. And more we can have a government and the chance to combine with it diamond portal to make it comprehensive and competitiveness. And in this context, I think it's very important to for the local government to improve what they can do. The government recently issued Resolution 19 and now replaced by the Resolution 2. in which they target very clearly to improve the business climate.
Now, to improve the governance quality, how do the provinces or cities at the bottom of the rankings, what do they need to change in your opinion?
For the province, we need to compare with the other province and city from the PCI results to know why they can get a higher rank from this index and the other index to find what is suitable to apply on for us.
My colleague Ms. Chi summarized perfectly what they need to do. I think on the one hand, if they focus on the PCI index, which shows them exactly the areas in their provinces where investors are having trouble, business registration, transparency of governance, some of the particular issues, land registration, those kinds of things. Provincial governments should focus on those particular issues and improve them, and then overall their score will rise. Secondly, the dialogue with the private sector, ongoing dialogue with the private sector about how those improvements are affecting business confidence in the business environment. Those are the two keys at any levels, including at the lowest levels.
So finally, what is USAID's plan to continue the PCI program to further improve the business and investment environment in Vietnam?
Well, we're very pleased that we have decided to continue with our partnership with VCCI for another 3 years and sponsoring the Provincial Competitiveness Index. And so we think that that's going to be very important in continuing to power reform at the local level. At the same time, we have 2 new projects that we think are going to help improve Vietnam's competitiveness. One is our trade facilitation project, which is working with Vietnamese customs and officials at provincial levels all over the country to improve cross-border trade facilitation. Our second new project is called SME Links, and it specifically will be linking international value chains with local SMEs, small and medium enterprises, in order to involve them in the international value chains, to increase technology transfer, upgrade local the qualities of local products and production, and involve them more in global value chains. So in all those ways, we're going to continue assisting with Vietnam's growth in the long term.
Well, once again, thanks to both of our guests for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
The PCI report has not only given the business community a voice to highlight key issues in economic governance at the provincial level, it has also influenced policy priorities and reform choices. In the midst of accelerated global integration, such thorough analysis of the current opportunities and challenges could not be more valuable. And that also wraps up this edition of BizLine. For more news and updates, please log on to vtv4.vtv.vn or catch us online at our YouTube channel at VTV4Go. Goodbye for now, and thanks for stopping by.